Hey, it's me, Maggie J. Today with two reviews because one of these episodes of American Horror Stories was so bad, I filmed nearly an hour of me ranting about how terrible every single element of this video was. But I thought, I'm not gonna waste your time with that. So I challenged myself to write a 2-sentence horror story about episode 4, and here it goes. The Bro House was full of worthless human beings. They aren't bothering anyone anymore. So now, on to episode 5, called Baal. Like the demon. Not what you pay to get out of jail early. Liv and Matt are husband and wife who have been through several unsuccessful years of IVF. She says that she wants to feel a baby growing inside of her, and she has the inheritance money to pay for all the rounds it requires. So her doctor and husband are more than supportive of her decision. While making her next appointment, the receptionist says she's watched Liv go through this for the last 2 years and feels bad for her. She wants to give her something that's a little unorthodox. The receptionist gives her a little statue and says it's a fertility totem. Just put it under your bed while you're getting it on and you will have your baby. Liv, rightfully, looks a bit weirded out and declines, but the receptionist assures her it's been in her family for a long time and it's worked for generations and she wouldn't be here without it. But she's not the baby type, so she doesn't want it to go to waste. Which is just weird for a receptionist at a fertility clinic to be saying in the first place. But the way that she's plying Liv also makes me feel like she's on a mission to get her to accept this. So I immediately thought she's working for a demon. Because if I know one thing about Baal, it's that he's evil. A prime evil, if my 2000s game knowledge doesn't fail me. But anyway, Liv does agree to take the statue because she's at the throw everything against the wall point in her fertility journey. So what could it hurt, right? She goes home and puts the thing under her bed and her and Matt do the deal, and 16 months later, there's a baby in their home. But parenting is nothing like how Liv expected it to be. And this baby won't stop crying. Unless anyone but her holds him, which is such a letdown for new mothers to find out that their baby hates them. During the time jump, Matt started getting better and better acting gigs, so he's out of the house a lot more, doing shoots and whatnot, so Liv is spending a lot of nights at home alone with the baby. One night, she finds the little statue that she forgot about under the bed. It looks a little different though. She tells this thing that she should have thrown it in the trash, implying that she'd rather have not had a child, which I know is just her being upset about the baby crying all the time. She puts the figure in a shoebox in a storage room and then tries to forget about it. Eventually, she starts to think that she's got postpartum, so Matt recommends a therapist type of lady that his agent told him about to try to help her cope, but she's hesitant. It's not clear whether it is that night or another night, but Liv is trying to fall asleep. She's got the baby monitor propped up right next to the bed. And of course, as soon as she starts to drift off, the baby starts crying. She tries to ignore it, hoping the baby would just go back to sleep, but then some static and interference start coming across the video monitor. And we can see flashes of what looks like a demon standing next to the baby's crib. Liv takes the monitor and runs to the baby's room. But of course, she finds nothing. However, the monitor keeps showing flashes of the thing, and at one point, it's right behind her. But she turns and sees nothing, and that's the end of the scene. The very next shot is of her at the therapist's office, Dr. Berger, who tries to soothe Liv's frazzled nerves, assuring her that what she's going through is normal and her baby doesn't hate her. The doctor gives her some calming techniques and sends her home in a new frame of mind. And things actually do get better. Liv and the baby are getting more in sync, and the baby is crying less, and she's happier overall. But then she finds the statue in the baby's crib, and it looks different again, more resembling that thing that she sees on the monitor. She runs to check the shoebox, but it's no longer there. She asks the housekeeper if she put this into the baby's bed, but the sight of the statue sends Norma running from the house, praying in Spanish and doing the cross sign. A growling noise from the basement sends Liv downstairs with a flashlight because light bulbs would ruin the suspense of this shot. And she finds a bunch of scratches on one of the walls, and the ductwork is clawed all to hell. We cut to her and Matt discussing what's been happening. He thinks a raccoon got trapped in the basement, but then she comes clean about the fertility totem, telling him it came from a New Age store, not the receptionist chick, and kind of alludes that she thinks it has something to do with all of this that's going on. He doesn't buy into the supernatural element, but is weirded out about the totem, and thinks maybe the therapist woman is not helping Liv all that much. I get some major Twilight flashbacks during this next scene, where Liv, is Googling vampire lore, Sumerian fertility tokens, and finds all kind of information about a demon named Baal on a website called Paganpedia, which is a bit simpler than having to go all the way to a bookstore in Oregon, I guess. Then the baby monitor goes nuts again, until she gets into the nursery, and then it all goes quiet. Except a soft static noise that sounds like an old school walkie-talkie type of baby monitor, which makes no sense because this is a digital video being broadcast on a closed network, not a radio channel. That's not even how this kind of technology works. But then she hears whispering or growling coming through the monitor, so she records it and spends all night messing with the audio file. And when Matt gets home in the morning, she makes him listen to it and then has to explain to him that it says, "I want him," because it is impossible to get that out of what she put together. Either she is terrible at audio editing, or she is really, really good at editing static into something that sounds a little bit like words. Matt brings Dr. Berger to the house. She listens to the file, but doesn't hear the words either. She says Liv is experiencing pareidolia, a condition where a person picks up on patterns that aren't really there. Liv's brain is trying to explain what she's going through and is finding connections to the supernatural, because that's the best explanation that she can come up with. Then the therapist tells her almost the exact same thing that Matt tells her. She's not getting enough sleep and her imagination is just running away from her. Dr. Berger leaves her with a prescription for Zoloft, despite Liv saying that she doesn't want any kind of pills. This scene made me very suspicious of this doctor. Liv does take the medicine though, but you can tell by her face, she is not very happy about it. Matt invites his friends over for a dinner party. They're all from film school and have different specialities, while heaping praise upon Matt for finally making it career-wise by graduating to a role with a name instead of drunk guy number 2. One of the friends spots a Ouija board on a shelf and asks if they can play. Matt is hesitant because of all the weird shit that's been going on in his house, but Liv wants to play. Hilariously, the girl who says, "I've always wanted to play," is the one who's leading this little summoning circle and saying words like, "We beseech you," while calling out to the spirits. Film school indeed. After a message from Jack Mehoff, they get serious, and the board spells out, "He is mine." They all swear they're not moving it, but Liv is losing her shit. She throws the board into the fireplace and lists off all the crazy things that have been happening to them and says there's a demon after their son and runs from the room. Matt is at his limit. He tells her she's embarrassed him in front of all his best friends, and he's been trying to be patient and supportive, but he just can't do it anymore, and she needs to figure her shit out. She tells him to fuck off and goes to the nursery to hold her baby. Now she's mad. So when the demon appears in the window and we can clearly hear him say, "He's mine," she defiantly yells back, "You're not gonna take my baby." Yeah, girl. In a parking lot, Liv, in a trench coat and a hat that she must have stolen from Pharrell's closet, confronts the receptionist woman and demands that she help her get rid of this demon. Bernadette is this woman's name, and she doesn't look like your typical mystic type, but has plenty of books about the occult and stuff. She says Baal is a fertility god, not a demon, which is a lie. So she doesn't understand what's happening. But there is a banishing ritual that Liv can do. So Bernadette gives her a dagger and the instructions and sends her on her way. Seems very odd that Bernadette would give her a fertility totem because she's concerned about her, but also wouldn't help her with a banishing spell, seeing as she's an amateur and Bernadette knows what the fuck she's doing. While Matt is at work, Liv does this ritual with salt and candles and Latin words and blood. The room gets real smoky and she can hear the demon talking to her, and you can tell she's getting really into this. She stands up so she can flick blood around with the dagger, and unexpectedly, Matt comes home and kind of sneaks up on her, and she whirls around and stabs him in the chest. Yikes. Okay. We cut to 2 weeks later. She's locked up in a mental hospital and Matt comes to visit. I think she's self-committed here because she says that she signed all the forms so that they could keep her until Dr. Berger says that she's better. We were never told that Dr. Berger works in a hospital like this, so I think it's odd that she has the same doctor here and at home, but I'm not really sure how all that works, so maybe that is the usual procedure. Now, my first watch through, I hadn't figured out the twist yet, so I thought that perhaps the hospital was all up front, because I don't trust the doctor woman, and she's still the doctor who's giving the care. So I expected when Matt left that he would go and meet up with the doctor woman so that they could talk about their future plans for Liv while she's in custody. But Matt walks out to the parking garage and meets up with somebody totally unexpected. Bernadette. And they start making out and talking shit about Liv. He says once his lawyers get through with her, she'll be committed indefinitely. Apparently, this has been a long con involving these two, these three, and maybe the doctor too? Dude bro here says he's been wrecking his body, wearing tight underwear and doing hot tub soaks and taking steroids to lower his sperm count because he didn't want to have babies at all. And he switched out the Zoloft that the doctor prescribed for his own psychoactive cocktail to make extra sure that Liv would be primed for psychosis. This bitch decorated her apartment to look all occulty to sell the idea that she was into that lifestyle. I told you she didn't have the right look for a witch. She's got the I work for a demon look. I've watched enough Supernatural to know the difference. This guy dressed up as a demon. This guy made all the audio drops and had the tiny speakers heading all over the house. This chick carved the different totems and did the fog during the ritual. Wait. Holy shit. I should have been able to put all this together before now, because at the dinner party they went around the table and explained their specialities. For what reason I had no idea, but I got really hung up when this chick said that she does set deck and I didn't understand what she meant. That by the time I was done thinking about that, we'd already moved on to this guy and he was saying that he had his own audio equipment, which I just thought was a weird flex. But it was right there. Ah, and I missed it. Oh. I'm very disappointed in myself for not catching on to this earlier than I did. Don't tell anyone how dumb I am. Also, they really downplayed how much money Liv is worth, so I kind of forgot that she was rich. The baby starts crying, so Matt goes to check on him while his co-conspirators continue celebrating in the living room. The power goes out for a minute, and when it comes back up, all of the effects that they had put in for Liv seemingly activate. They hear growls and the music is distorted, fog starts to roll in, but they all swear that they removed and took down everything that they had put in. Then the demon appears and says, "You are mine," and completely demolishes all of them. I do have to describe their causes of death because you're going to need to know them for a point I'm going to dig into a little bit later. This guy gets punched in the head and it pops like a balloon. The design chick gets punched in the back so that it comes all the way through the front and then her guts spill out. The audio guy has his spine ripped out in one complete piece, like how fish skeletons are removed in cartoons. And then this chick just gets her neck cracked and tossed to the ground, which could make sense in the end. Hold on to this. Matt comes back into the room and Baal spreads his wings. Then the scene fades to black. The next shot is of Matt in jail garb and shackles. He's having a visit with his wife, and she's pissed at him for gaslighting her into committing herself and wants to know why he did it. He says he didn't want kids and told her that, but she never listened. So he played along with her fertility plan until he didn't love her anymore, but he just couldn't walk away from her money. So why did you kill your friends? She asks, but he swears that he didn't. It was Baal. You know, the demon he and those friends tricked her into believing had magicked her into getting pregnant and then was coming back to steal her baby away. So she committed herself because she thought she was crazy. That demon. You are so lucky this glass is in between you two, or this woman will rip your esophagus out. And then he asks her for money for a lawyer. Later that night at home, Liv tucks Aaron into his crib. Aaron is the baby's name, by the way. I didn't say it before now, but that's it. And then, guess who shows up? It's Daddy Baal. And he asks her to release him because he's done what she's asked and killed them. See, that ritual that Bernadette gave to Liv was supposed to be for banishing, but it was actually for summoning. And somehow it didn't work the first time, but it did the second time in the hospital, where she somehow had the page with the ritual on it and somehow cut herself and smeared the blood all over the floor and didn't raise any red flags at all. In the mental hospital. So Baal's been under her control ever since. She says that she will release him, but he's got to do one more thing for her. Give her another baby. And he is more than willing. And that's the end. Overall, I give this episode 2 out of 5 stars. The storyline should have been stronger because the whole let's make Liv believe that she's being stalked by a demon plot doesn't work. It's just lazy writing for a deceptive plot line to deliberately not make sense because there's another twist coming up so soon after the reveal that there's not enough time to realize the deception doesn't work. Also, the twist doesn't really line up in this case either. We don't know how long has passed since the night of the party, but it has been long enough for Liv to get herself out of the mental hospital and for Matt to get to a point in the investigation where he could see visitors. So how and when did Liv find out that they were all tricking her? She didn't specify a reason for doing what she thought was a banishing ritual again, so I assume she thought it couldn't hurt to finish it in case it would banish the thing away from her and or her child. But then it's a summoning ritual. So did she come up with the idea to frame Matt for the gruesome murders of his friends on the spot? Meaning that she would have to have knowledge of the deception before the ritual. I suppose she could have sent the demon to go spy on her husband and then decided to kill all the friends after she found out, but why would she? She's self-committed and has shown no signs that she suspects her husband has tricked and drugged her into a psychological break. She even says, if I wasn't so out of my mind that I thought I would never get out of that hospital, I probably wouldn't have done the ritual again. So there is nothing that tells us how or when she found out about this deception, which feels like a pretty important piece of this story that we're never gonna get. And then the deaths of the friends. These people, as shitty as they were slaughtered in ways that a human being could just not accomplish. So I don't know if Matt is going to be convicted of this, which is probably not the most important takeaway, but I listened to a lot of murder casts, and facts like a human spine cannot be removed completely intact from the body in this manner, and There were no weapons found at the scene that could have enabled the defendant to cause the deceased's head to pop like a balloon, could potentially swing a jury. But the mistress girl only had her neck broken, which could easily have been done by this guy, and he won't have a good lawyer, so yeah, he'll probably be convicted of at least 1 or 2 of these deaths. Excuse me, murders. Anyway, not a great episode, but it's not as bad as episode 4, which isn't really saying anything. These are just scary short stories. Plenty of good ones are told on YouTube every single day by creators who don't have any of the publicity that this show does. And these stories fucking suck. I'm gonna shut up before I get on to something else that these people are doing terribly. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, submit, sign up, enlist, enroll, whatever these buttons down here on the bottom are saying. And y'all stay safe out there. Okay, I tried to let it go, but I didn't want to leave you so curious about the 4th episode that you thought that you should go watch it because it couldn't possibly be that bad. Trust me, it is that bad. So here's a few more minutes of me assuring you, you aren't missing a damn thing by skipping this. Episode 4 features 4 mid-20s bros living in the bro house and running a YouTube channel together. Feeling they are about to start waning in popularity at any moment, they are constantly trying to outdo themselves and all the other YouTube houses in shock value. Over the course of a few days, they post videos featuring a stranger jumping off of a bridge to their doom while they laugh and cheer, pretending to be gay to attract new subscribers, and telling a line full of kids at the mall waiting to see Santa that he's not real and they're being tricked by their parents. Of course, everyone hates these guys, including me, you, if you happen to have suffered through this episode, the whole world in general, and this Santa guy. So he kills them in some pretty spectacular ways. I am not knocking the kill plan at all. But Santa uploads these videos of these killings to the Bro House YouTube channel, which shows a level of technological know-how I'm finding a bit difficult to attribute to someone I'm supposed to believe is an ancient pagan god creature that doles out punishments, whose legend somehow got skewed into our modern day version of Santa. These writers really gave us nothing to like here. These characters are fucking horrible. They didn't give us enough information about the villain for us to root for him. And this storyline is so true to life, I don't know how you're supposed to enjoy this content. I already don't watch this shit on YouTube, and yet I'm spending 40 minutes watching people make the kind of content that I avoid. The kill scenes were cool, but I think the better storyline lies within the title sequence, and that's less than a minute long, so perhaps watch this and save yourself 40+ minutes. Finally, that is all that I have to say about this episode. I wish I could banish it from existence. But at least it wasn't more teenage sex.